What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson, the DA, and this is the box office breakdown. You know it as the scoreboard for the film industry. This is where we take a look at who's hot, who's not, the winners and the losers. We also take a look at the week that just passed, along with the week that is to come. So we're talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, obviously, because it's the #1 movie once again, second weekend in a row. But the big news about Thor: Love and Thunder is not that it's #1, but that it dropped 68 huge percentage points in the box office from week to week. So that is a big number, and it kind of points out what everybody has been saying about this movie. Like we say, the numbers don't lie, and if this movie was getting the buzz that it should be getting, we would see something in the neighborhood of a 40 or 50% drop. But in this case, we're looking at a 68% drop, all the way down to $46 million from last week's $143 million. So let's go ahead and get into this article. This is Box Office Pro, where all the movie fans go. Weekend box office: Thor: Love and Thunder repeats with a $46 million as 2022 domestic total equals the 2021's year-end total. So that's good news for the box office. Obviously, last year there was a lot of stuff going on in the country, pandemics and so on and so forth. Theaters weren't really open like that. Not only that, people's own particular fears about going out in public really limited the amount of money that the box office did make. We're already over the year-end total from last year, so the box office is looking up, which is good news for movie fans. All right, so let's get into this. If I had a hammer, what would you do with a hammer? Well, it got hammered this weekend, let me tell you. Last frame, Disney and Marvel Studios superhero sequel Thor: Love and Thunder. It began with $144 million, number 30 opening weekend of all time. But then it says here the second frame fell 68% to the number 75 second weekend of all time. That's a sharper drop than any other pandemic era MCU movie, and it goes through it. Doctor Strange had 67%. Spider-Man: No Way Home also had 67%, though its second weekend fell during one of the single worst weekends of COVID's Omicron rave. Eternals had 62%, Shang-Chi had 54%. It ties the second weekend drop of Black Widow, though that film was released day and date simultaneously in cinemas and Disney Plus. And then it goes on and talks about the other of Chris Hemsworth's titles and the drops there. Overseas is looking at a total of $264,497 million globally. So here's the top markets to date for Thor: Love and Thunder. All right, so what's going on? Why? Well, we talked about it. It's not a good movie. It's #1. It's not a good movie. I would say that if anything, it's an average movie. An average leaning towards the downside of average, not a good average, but a bad average. It's just not a good movie. And the fans have been very vocal about that. Like I said, you go and look at the critical reactions on Rotten Tomatoes. And I always tell you guys, pay attention to the audience score. So look at the audience score right now, 79%. Now, overall, most people are going to say, yeah, it's cool, it's a good movie, go ahead and see it. But if the movie is getting rave reviews, or even if it's getting like solid, it's going to be over 90% with the audience. 9 times out of 10. Sometimes a good movie will slip because there might be some folks just trying to downvote the movie, or even sometimes trying to upvote the movie to try to push it in and push it around. So you can, play around with it when it gets towards that 90%, give or take a couple of percentage points. Sometimes a good film might still be under 90. But nevertheless, if it's all the way down to under 80%, people aren't feeling this film. And when people aren't feeling the film, you got bad word of mouth, right? You got less repeat viewers, okay? Those are the types of things that Marvel has really solidified and really banked on over the years. And I'm going to have another video that I'm going to talk about this, where Marvel is really starting to lose its edge with general audience members. The fans, the comic book fans, the people that are super hard MCU stans, they got hats and t-shirts, and they collect all of the merchandise and the video games and the toys and all of that kind of stuff. Those people are going to go see it 3 or 4 times. Best believe that. But the general audience, that's what Marvel has been able to make its money on. And the general audience is saying, I'm not really feeling this. They saw it once, they're done. Or they'll probably just wait for it to show up on Disney Plus, because they're pushing them out faster and faster and faster. I think Doctor Strange, it only hit after 6 weeks. It was already on Disney Plus, or 7 weeks. So these films aren't lasting very long in theaters to begin with because they're not getting the word of mouth. And when you don't get the word of mouth and it doesn't last long in theaters and you're getting audience scores like this, you're going to just start to see the MCU film starting to come down. I'm starting to rate the MCU kind of overrated at this point. But yeah, let's get on to the rest of it. Rise and Fall. Now this is talking about Minions, The Rise of Gru, led with 107 million 2 frames ago, the number 59 weekend opening of all time. And then last week it fell 57%. And then this weekend it only declines 44%. So that's actually a good number right there for a third weekend. And it's doing really well, $532 million globally. And it shows the top markets there. So Gru's doing pretty good. Only Carolina will ever know. So a murder mystery, The Where the Crawdads Sing, opened up to $17 million. Now this is a film with a very, very small budget, and $17 million is probably a very good, solid opening. Hasn't opened up overseas yet, but nevertheless, I think a really good, solid opening for a very small budget film that not a lot of people knew about. Wasn't a lot of marketing about it. I only know about it because I follow movies and I'm a movie fan. Other than that, I knew absolutely nothing about this particular film, but nevertheless, $17 million. It's based on a popular novel that did very well. So yeah, hats off to Sony. Another good little solid opening, not big, not huge, and it's probably going to get some legs in terms of it making its money back. We're going to take a look at that. I think it might struggle. Depends on how things go in the box office. Following that, of course, we got Top Gun Maverick still hanging in there, still doing big numbers over the week. $12 million, right? Like, you think about this movie, it's been in theaters forever, and you got all kinds of stuff in the theaters to watch right now, and still is bringing in $12 million over the weekend, and that's impressive. And I think that, as I've said before, many lessons are being learned right now with this Top Gun Maverick success. And finally, just outside of the top 5, at 6th place, was the debut of Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank. I didn't think that this was a good spot to drop this film. It's right before Super Pets, because Super Pets is coming out in a couple of weeks. It's right after Minions, another family film, and so 6 million, it would have probably did better in some space where there's absolutely no family entertainment whatsoever. You don't even have a Thor Love and Thunder or anything Marvel related. Somewhere down the line, maybe in October or November, would have been a better spot, because there's really little going on at that particular time, and it might have got some family Thanksgiving traffic, and families are taking trips and holidays, and they trying to always find stuff for the kids to do. That might have been a better opportunity for this film. Putting it in summer probably wasn't the greatest move, but 6.2 million, and it also had a bigger than expected budget. I think it had like a $45 million budget. I don't know how that's going to do, and if they're going to be able to get their money back. Elvis took in number 5. I don't think they indicated that here, but Elvis took in number 5, and we're going to take a look at the numbers right now, because Elvis is probably going to be struggling to get his money back along with some of these other films. But let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers and see what they have to say. All right, folks, here we go with the top 10 for the weekend. Let's check it out. Number 1, Thor, of course, at $46 million. Minions, The Rise of Gru, coming in at $26 million. Followed at number 3 with Where the Crawdads Sing at $17 million. Top Gun Maverick, man, still amazingly doing numbers. It's just incredible to watch at $12 million. And then finally, Elvis at number 5, $7.6 million. Finishing out the top 10, Paws of Fury at 6.3, The Black Phone, $5.3 million. Jurassic World dropped on VOD. Who knew? It's still doing $5 million in theaters. I'm still questioning that decision by Universal. I think this thing had another at least 2 or 3 weeks just to let it all hang out and see what they could get. But they put it on VOD, and it still does $5 million in the theaters this weekend. Pretty impressive. And then Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, independent film, coming in at $1.9 million. And then finally, Lightyear, all the way down at number 10 at $1.3 million. All right, and then we go with the top 5 domestic week-over-week drops. Thor, Love and Thunder coming in, obviously, with the 68% drop, is a huge, huge number. And again, it just shows you where people are with the MCU right now. I hope Marvel is paying attention and getting their act together when it comes to some of the content, because they're just not making the same quality of content that they made back in the day. It's like it's more quantity than quality, and you saw that like in the first 3 phases of Marvel. If you go back and look at the first 3 phases of Marvel, most of it was, you know, good content, occasionally great, and a couple bads, right? Good, occasionally great, couple bads. Now you're getting kind of average content, occasionally good, one great, and then mostly it's just boring bad content. And I'm talking about the television as well as the films. So phase 4 has just been like the reverse of what phases 1 through 3 gave us, you know, and it's so much content crammed into like a year and a half. Like Marvel's just going crazy with it right now. Just think about this. You have over the 18-month period, now you have 13, you know, pieces of, you know, content, whether it be a television show or a movie, just crammed into this small window of time. If you go back to like phase 1 was spread out over what, 4 years, from 2008 to 2012, and it only had 6 movies, right? And that was a nice phase. You know, you got to really sit back and think about the movie. You got to wonder, wow, I wonder what's going to happen with this post-credit scene. Who are they going to be bringing in? And all the speculation and stuff. That's what got Marvel really going. And now it just seems like, okay, we're just going to throw stuff at you. We're just going to hammer you with it. And most of it isn't that good. So I think Marvel has to start taking a look. When it's getting 68% drops like that, you're losing your general audience. People are just going to start tuning it out more and more. Now I'm kind of concerned what Black Panther is going to do, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Minions Rise of Gru, 44% drop, not bad. Now sitting at 532 million overall in the worldwide box office. I think Minions is going to have a nice solid run all the way through the remainder of the summer. Like I said, maybe won't hit the 900 or $1 billion mark. Maybe won't hit the 900 million or $1 billion mark, but it'll get close. And I think it's going to have a nice solid run. Top Gun Maverick, obviously, still just dropping minuscule, small little drops, 23%, still at $1.2 billion, magnificent numbers. Elvis is at 32% along with the Black Phone. Both of them dropping 32% this week, and both of them, you know, still doing relatively well. Black Phone's already made its money. Elvis is actually doing well for itself. All right, and then we get to the top 10 worldwide. So Top Gun, of course, at 1.2 billion. Doctor Strange creeped up another $1 million, but I think that that's going to be about it for that one. Jurassic World at 902 million. So Jurassic World has crossed the $900 million threshold. And like I said, I thought that if you kept it in theaters, you know, for at least another couple of weeks, you probably get another $25 million out of this movie that you could put in your pocket and say, nice. But apparently they're done with it. They're just going to throw it on the VOD and see what they can get out of that. You know, hey, more power to them, I guess. The Batman, 770, and then Watergate Bridge at $626 million. Minions, The Rise of Gru, rises all the way up to number 6. I think eventually it will overtake Watergate Bridge and the Batman. It's just going to take some time. Thor Love and Thunder pulling up at number 7 with 498 million. It's going to get to the point where it will make its money back. We'll check that out in a second. Secrets of Dumbledore, 405, and then Sonic and Uncharted, 401 million apiece. All right, and then here's the top 5, make it or break it. So we've added some more movies to this at the bottom there, but let's talk about Lightyear. Once again, we're going to talk about how Lightyear is absolutely falling flat on its face. A $200 million budget. I don't know what these people were thinking. They must have had no idea that this thing was going to tank so magnificently. It's just absolutely crazy how badly this movie did in the box office. Only scraping up again another $1 million in the box office. This thing is heading to Disney Plus. You can, if you probably wanted to check this out and you haven't, you probably can just go ahead and wait. It's going to hit Disney Plus probably within the next couple of weeks, because if it's only making $1 million in the box office this week, it's over. It's over. You got Elvis. Now Elvis is going to be, like I said, it's got to keep some forward momentum going, and there are still people out there that probably haven't seen it that are like, oh man, I got to hurry up and go see Elvis before it's out of theaters. $170 million. So right now, roughly speaking, about $40 to $45 million away from its break-even number. And it needs some help from overseas. Like I said, it's really not getting that help that it needs from overseas. But nevertheless, I think that's still a really solid box office run for Elvis. A lot of people, you know, didn't expect this movie to do very well. So for it to get that much, I think that that's solid in terms of expectations. Obviously, they want to make their money back. They don't want to lose money. But nevertheless, I think that's solid. Thor Love and Thunder at $498 million. Now, look, it still has a few $100 million to go. It got to get to $625 million. It's going to get there. Just let that go. If you're thinking, oh, Thor's not going to make, it's going to get there. It's going to stay in theaters another 3 weeks. It'll probably get that in the international markets alone, but it might not make much more than that. And then that's something that Marvel, again, will have to look at. If it doesn't make much more than that 625, let's say it ends up at $700 million. Most people would say, hey, success, $700 million. But then you got to start thinking about that Thor 5. You know, it said there at the end of the movie that Thor will return. So you just got to start thinking about that Thor 5. Is it going to get enough of a buzz? Is Marvel going to show enough confidence to say, okay, we're going to put some more money into this? And are they going to let Taika Waititi do a Thor movie again? That's the other question. Will Taika be able to direct Thor 5? Maybe Thor 5 comes back. You know, Thor's had 3 different people directed, you know, this franchise. So will it be Taika? You know, time will tell. Where the Crawdads Sing, like I said, it's a small budget, only $24 million. It does need $73 million in order to break even. Man, it's going to be tough. But at the same time, if this thing gets a good bump overseas, you know, there's a lot of people that like murder mysteries. It doesn't have a lot of big name actors. It's kind of a, you know, small town kind of book. It's very quiet and it's not getting the greatest reviews. So that's going to be a tough nut to crack, but $73 million isn't out of the realm of possibility. It only needs like another good weekend. I think if it gets a good drop next weekend, like a solid decent drop, and gets into that $35-40 million range, and then it starts adding, of course, more from the international market, I think it'll be fine. Hasn't gotten the international numbers yet, so that's something to consider. And then finally, Paws of Fury. So Paws of Fury, like I said, I think it just dropped at the wrong time. I think I would have put this out in September, not even September, like October or November, like way down the line, somewhere where there's not a lot of family films coming out, because there's family stuff coming out all year long. But I think that, you know, with the Minions coming out now, and then, you know, Super Pets coming up in a couple of weeks, I think that Paws of Fury is just getting lost in the mix, and nobody's really checking for this movie. 6.3 million on its debut. That's not a good look. So I think if they probably just, you know, said, man, we should have just put this in October or November and, you know, wrote it out from there. Because I know that there's another Disney film that's coming out, Strange World. That's going to be in the fall as well. So I think that this would have been a nice mix with Strange World than putting it out with Minions, because Minions is kind of a silly movie and this is kind of a silly movie. So I just think bad timing for Paws of Fury. Nevertheless, that's it for the numbers. Let's go ahead and check out next week. Let's see what we got. All right, and here we go with next week, July 22nd, and the Jordan Peele horror film Nope will be dropping in theaters. I expect this to get some decently high praise. You know, Jordan Peele, over the last couple of his movies, he's done a good job, you know, with the horror genre, first with Get Out and then with Us. And I know a lot of people will be looking forward to seeing his next film. So Nope coming out next week. We'll definitely be doing a box office prediction for that, try to figure out what we think it'll do in its opening weekend, along with its total overall worldwide gross. We'll try to see if we can, you know, kind of pick through Jordan Peele's content and see what do people normally do with Jordan Peele. Do they flock out and watch it originally and then they kind of peel back? Is it like kind of a long stretch over a period of time? How do the people really approach Jordan Peele? We'll take a look at that and see what we got with Jordan Peele. But nevertheless, folks, that'll do it for the box office breakdown. Thank you for all watching. If you haven't done so already, there's likes and subscribe buttons down below. Give one of them a click. You can catch my videos. I do the box office breakdown every Sunday, and then of course throughout the weeks I do movie reviews, random rants, all kinds of other information, movies with the homies. We try to get those going when me and T have time to kind of link up together and get that. Sometimes it's good times, sometimes it's not, but nevertheless, we're always trying to put out some interesting stuff for you guys to consider. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.